Welcome to Inside Out, the podcast about badass millennials living out their dreams and how they got there. I'm your host, Jane Z. Today's episode is one that I've been waiting for since I started this podcast. Our guest today is Shahil Patel, who's the CEO and founder of BollyX. BollyX is a Bollywood-based fitness class that's grown into a global movement. It's something that I've been enjoying for the last 3 years, and it's a super fun class where you do dances to Bollywood music and you strike poses. It's super fun. They've been featured on Shark Tank, and I just learned this, but Shahil has also performed with celebrities like Jamie Foxx, Enrique Iglesias, and Diana Ross. Crazy. If you enjoy this episode, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening for new episodes every Tuesday. And I'd love to know if you like these hour-long sessions or if you want something a bit shorter. All right, let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Shahil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bringing that Bollywood energy, bringing that Bollywood fire, that bummer fire.
I was actually thinking about what to wear today, and I was like, "Oh, should I wear something yellow to go with the like Bollywood theme?"
You got like gold vibes in your hair, and
that's true.
You got black. You're good. You're already ready.
Forever BollyX over here.
Yeah.
Have you found that you started wearing more yellow and black since you started doing BollyX?
Well, I wear BollyX clothes all the time, so
that's like how I see you, really.
Yeah, but more recently, I found these like harem pant things.
Yes.
So much space, and they're like so exciting. I'm like, I only wear them now.
They look so comfy.
Yeah, they're mad comfy. We're working on getting more of these.
Ooh, you should get like embroidered BollyX ones.
Yeah.
Did you grow up dancing and watching a lot of Bollywood movies?
So I grew up watching a lot of Bollywood movies because I grew up into two Indian immigrant parents. I grew up in sunny Southern California in the OC.
Ooh.
And yeah, Cali boy over here. And I did not dance at all. I sang, actually. So I got my sense of rhythm and music and all that appreciation for Bollywood music through my mom, actually, because she used to sing on stage and she taught me how to sing and all that good stuff. But no, I was definitely afraid of dancing growing up. Like I would never, like, we would go to these parties where, like, you know, the people would dance and stuff. And I would always be with my friends chilling at the table.
Would you come out for like karaoke?
Yeah, karaoke was my thing because that I could do. I could sing.
Yeah.
I felt good about that. My sister sang. We both used to do like duets. Like we used to sing on stage, actually. So I think I conquered stage fright from a very early age, but it was more through singing, not through dancing.
Interesting. I actually didn't know you sang.
Oh shoot!
Oh, we'll have to hear it.
Hey, I'm saving it in case one day when my legs go, I'm gonna reinvent myself. I'm gonna bring the voice out.
Dude, you should do it. I'm thinking about starting to do more
sing.
covers
We
and
should
stuff.
You got some gems. I've heard your voice. You're really talented.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to sing more. So if you ever want to do a collab,
let's do a Bollywood duet or something.
There we go. All right, sounds good. Later on, so you got into dancing in college. Where'd you end up going for college again?
I went to Berkeley in San Francisco, so it's like about a 6-hour drive from Southern California. Northern California and Southern California are almost like two different states. For anyone who grew up there or knows the two regions, they're very, very different in a lot of ways. But yeah, no, I got into dancing actually to surprise my mom, because when I was in high school, my voice, or like when I went through puberty, my voice cracked and I abandoned singing and I got really into soccer and like competitive sports. And I, like most of my friends, were non-Indian, and I just kind of like disconnected from my cultural roots in high school. And then when I left Southern California to go to college at Berkeley, my mom was like, beta means like young one, my son, or, you know, my child. She's like, beta, like try something Indian for a change if you can. And so I was like, okay, mom. So I heard about this whole Bollywood dance scene on campus, and I was like, I didn't really know too many people, you know, I was still making new friends and all that. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll go. You know, one of my friends dragged me to the audition, they were like short on guys because no guys wanted to be associated with Bollywood dance at that time. It was just like, it was very hard to find guys that would be wanting to do this activity, but there was tons of girls that were like trained dancers, very experienced, confident, all that stuff. And so I auditioned, barely made the team, like was super embarrassed, like beyond belief. It was just I still remember what it was like going through auditioning for that team, because it was just so far outside of my comfort zone at the time. And I barely made the team. But that one decision basically set into motion the rest of my life.
The rest of your
So
life.
yeah, so
Wow.
it was really, really cool. Like, and really the roots of the roots of BollyX for me really start there, because at BollyX we like to say, unleash your inner rock star. And the idea behind BollyX is really to help you find and channel that inner rock star, regardless of where you're starting, whether that be physically, mentally, from a dance standpoint, emotionally, even all those things. There's so many different ways that BollyX can help you unleash your inner rock star. And that idea of like finding your inner confidence and expressing it is it's so critical for our community. It's so critical for the concept, the program, the dance moves, the choreography, all that stuff. And the journey that I went through in college in terms of like discovering my own inner rock star, finding a way to unleash it, straightening out my two left feet to actually become coordinated, and then eventually become captain and make progress at a very like at a rate that was far beyond my own expectations. Like all of that thinking and ethos has been embedded into the heart of BollyX. And I could talk for days about that, but yeah, it all started with that decision to join this dance team and feeling super embarrassed and shy about it.
Wow. And what I read from that too is you're a mama's boy.
Yes. My mom will
Wow.
probably watch this at some point, and if I answer that in any other way other than yes, I will hear from her.
You'll probably hear from her anyway. But yeah, I was thinking about my own journey with BollyX as you were talking, because it's something I've stuck with for a long time as a dance form and as a form of exercise. There is a bit of a learning curve where there's like a lot of moves that you typically wouldn't use in daily life. But once you get those steps down, it's like is higher learning curve, but higher reward also.
Nice. I love
Yeah.
it. I think what's really interesting about BollyX too as an experience for people is that like, and not just BollyX, I think Bollywood as a style, as a genre, one thing that makes it really accessible and approachable to such a broad range of people, regardless of like where their starting point is from a dance standpoint, or what culture they come from, or how familiar they are with it. I think what makes it resonate kind of across a broad group of people is that the music itself draws from world rhythms. And then the movement patterns, they have both these like really complex, intricate things like the ones you're talking about. And then they also have like the most cheesy, simple, lovey-dovey, almost like everyday movements built in and done to like this really outlandish music at like really amazing times in the music. And the juxtaposition of those two things is really neat, because there are moments where you can like, anyone can kind of put their hand on their heart and just like do a J-ho, on a train,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. That's like, it doesn't matter if you know how to dance or not. Like, you can do this, you can put your hand up and you can just move it, right? Like anyone can do that, right? And you can, and so you feel good about that. But then after that, it gives you that little bit of confidence you need to then try something that's more outside of your comfort zone, right?
Mm.
And the choreography itself cycles between those two things. Like we have some stuff that's like intended to challenge you to be a little bit outside of your comfort zone and then help you kind of achieve that growth that you're talking about. But then there's also stuff that is going to make any person feel like I could actually make it there one day. And that is just as important, especially for me, because like it was those initial simple moves, running my hand through my hair and like, doing stuff like that gave me the confidence, that requisite confidence I needed to then try more intense stuff. So It's really, really cool to hear about your experience with BollyX. Like you've been a diehard fan for such a long time. And
And actually, that's a good point because there is a lot of these like cheesy literal moves in Bollywood or BollyX where it's like, the hookup song or what else is it? There's a lot of like drinking shots and like drinking.
yeah, you can drink shots of whatever you want. It could
Yeah,
be
it could be
water,
like
it could be
orange juice.
alcoholic, whatever your choice.
Yeah.
Mine would be Patron.
Nice. No, it's super fun. And at every end of every song, you do like a pose.
For sure. Actually, posing is really interesting because there's a TED talk. The name escapes me for who did this TED talk, but a TED talk about like power poses and the the actual psychological effect that comes with hitting certain like poses that exude confidence, and it actually helps you build that inside, right? So if you stand with like and we teach a lot of these principles even in BollyX. Like for me as a dancer, I don't like think of myself as a dancer because I never started, I never got trained, if that makes sense. I kind of was just like hacking my way through it by watching like YouTube videos and like trying to copy Shah Rukh Khan and be like, why does Shah Rukh Khan look so good when he does this? Like what's so cool about him that when he does it, it looks great. And like when I do it, it doesn't look good, right? Why? And I would literally just do that. Like, and I would watch this, I would record myself and I'd watch it and I'd compare it side by side. I'm like, oh, well, when I'm doing it, I got my shoulders up and that doesn't look so good, So
It's like, where's your
maybe
neck?
like, yeah. So instead of rounding my shoulders in, what if I like relax them moving back? What if I raise my neck a little bit, raise my chest, and then I do it? All of a sudden, I feel it looks more powerful. It feels more powerful. And I look like Shah Rukh Khan and I feel good about that. So, so you start, you learn very quickly, I think, and maybe not so quickly for a lot of people, but you learn that, or I believe that the foundation of kind of all dance and really a lot of just presentation in general, like whether it's presenting on stage or in a board meeting or in class or whatever, right? Like when you're presenting things, a lot of it stems with just your body language, right? Like actually making things big, like opening your posture up, looking up, and as opposed to like looking down all the time, and then just not being afraid, right? A lot of things come down to just like, people can sense when you are you are not in the right mindset, right? And they can also feel when you're projecting confidence, people feel that too, right? So we have this framework in BollyX called Be Bold, BOLD, be big, open up, look up, don't be afraid. And that to me is like the single most important thing that I learned while trying to figure out how to dance, in college. And when I really understood that, and I started implementing it in everything I started doing, like the rate at which I progressed was just like staggering. And then that is what I sought to teach other people. And when I became captain of the team and all that stuff, is like I wasn't even like worried about it's a funny story. Like I remember in college, like I remember my senior year, I remember like the way it works is that I was captain. This was my second year as captain, and they have these it's like you got served. Basically, you have all these different colleges that are competing with these 8-minute Bollywood dance routines. They're like mashup of like 8 different songs, and they perform it on stage. And all the competitions happen in like February, March, and everyone starts preparing around September. I remember like we didn't have like our choreography or song selection finalized like at all. And like September went by, October went by, November went by, December went by. And like I remember the team being like, yo, Shahil, when are we gonna learn the actual routine?
Oh, no.
And like all the other schools had been learning their routines for like months and months. And our teammates have friends at different schools and they're all like talking about how much they're learning and this, that. And like we were still stuck. I was just teaching them last year's routine and teaching them how to be bold and happy and smile and express and like dance as a unit. And it was like Mr. Miyagi. Like I wasn't even like focused on like I don't know if you watch Cobra Kai, but I just watched that and it's a great show. I love it. But like, it's like, I wasn't focused on teaching them the actual routine. Actually, I didn't even have the routine. I hadn't even figured out. I was like, it'll come to us eventually, And so what happened was then we all broke for winter break. And over winter break, like everything started like really falling into place. Like the songs that came out, like there were these new movies that were coming out. Billu Barber has like a Marjani. And I remember that song, Marjani, 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 Marjani. We got that dance move. You remember in our class? Yeah, you know. So yeah, there are all these like bomb new songs that came out that, because we waited, like we got first dibs on all those tracks, and then we incorporated all this stuff, and we came out in like end of January, 1 week prior to the competition. We all came together and we started learning the routine for the first time. I remember everyone's eyes, they were just so like, worried, because they were like, how are we going to compete in 1 week against all these schools, and we haven't even learned our routine yet. And I was like, I just had a feeling like, look, like it's gonna work. And then we actually won the competition. It was just, and even I still remember, I remember the first thing was I scratched my head, because I was like totally not expecting
how did that happen?
Yeah. But it really goes to show that if you just focus on the foundation, right, of anything, and this whole concept really extends so much further than dance. If you focus on foundation and you get the foundation right, then there's no limit to how fast you can grow. And that concept, I have learned now over and over and over in so many different ways, like whether it's in my personal life, whether it's in my own, like my body, when it comes to physical fitness and wellness, when it comes to our business, when it comes to BollyX. Like when we first started BollyX, like we didn't have a strong foundation, to be honest, right? Like, we were throwing darts at a wall to a certain degree. We had general idea of where the darts should go, but we made so many mistakes, right? And we almost paid the price. Like, I mean, so often startups like come out the gates thinking like, oh, and I was in the exact same boat where I'm like, oh, you're supposed to like raise money, and then you're supposed to spend it all to like grow as fast as you can, and like go put Bollywood everywhere before anyone else does, and like or like they have demand over here, they have demand over there, that city wants it, this city wants it, that instructor wants to launch it, and you're like, oh, cool, so the demand is there, therefore we must go, which is totally not the way to go about it. Like the way to go about it is to stop and say, okay, yes, demand exists in these places, but what exactly is our funnel? Like, and start with the basics of a business is essentially, where are your customers coming from? Who are your customers? Like, why do they want what you are offering? Do they value it? And can you offer that and make sure that you make a profit while you're offering it? Because if you can't make a profit, your business is going to go broke.
Yeah,
right?
That's not a business.
Or if instructors, for us, the one big, huge flaw for us was that if instructors want to launch BollyX in, like, let's say like Vancouver's a example, right? Like it's a place that has now, Vancouver's now one of our biggest markets, because there's a lot of, are you from Vancouver?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So we got, I know Vancouver, I got my Vancouver peeps out there, Surrey. And there's, hold up. There's Surrey, there's Vancouver. There's like a bunch of, it's Vancouver's, that whole area is a pretty cool place. But what I was trying to say is that when we first went there, right, like what I would notice is that, okay, we train these instructors that are like, love Bollywood, love Zumba and other dance formats, and they want to teach BollyX. But the members in the gym don't know what BollyX is. People in Vancouver don't know what BollyX is, right? So it's hard for an instructor to go into a gym and then like on their own build a big following when the members don't even know. When they read BollyX on a sign, they're like, what is this? Right? Or even if they know what it is, they're like, do I trust this yet? Because I haven't really seen it. I'm not familiar. Oh, let me go try this other thing that I have heard or I have done, right? And so over the years, we kind of learned that, all right, we need to have like a funnel or a model in place that allows not just the instructors to get certified and trained and launch classes effectively, but also retain their members and bring members in. And so that meant we needed a consumer strategy too, right? BollyX on Demand allowed us to build, allowed us to sell the concept of BollyX and raise awareness for how it works and share the choreography, all that directly to the consumer, right? And so the more that people became aware of it, the more that we did things like go on Shark Tank and spread the word that, hey, BollyX exists. That solved something that was critical for instructors to then be successful. So if we were putting the cart before the horse, we're out there like training all these instructors, but we haven't solved this problem. Those instructors, yeah, they may get certified on day one, but then 1 year from now, their class is going to close up shop. Right. And so it's the same thing when you if you think about how you train your body, right? Like for myself, like when I first started teaching BollyX, I was more of a dancer, less of a fitness person at the time, right? Because I came from this whole college dance circuit thing. And when I basically first started teaching, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm athletic. I used to dance in college and all this stuff, and like I can handle teaching Bollywood. And dancing on stage for 8 minutes is totally different from teaching a 55-minute high intensity interval training cardio class, like night and day. Those two could not be further from each other. By the way, any dancer who's in the college circuit right now that thinks that because they lit it up on stage that they can teach a BollyX class well, like you got to think twice about that, because your body probably cannot handle it yet.
That's got to be insane stamina.
It's insane stamina. It's a different level of like of pressure on your body. It also takes a different level of focus to remember every single dance move and all the cues, pre-cues, and like all this stuff. Like, and you have to be the one that's showing everyone else, right? So you can't just like take a break, you know? So it's like,
Right.
it's like, yeah. So it's sustained for a long period of time. And so, I was able to teach 1, maybe 2 classes a week without as much trouble. But then I ended up inheriting some of my teammates moved to a different city, and I inherited all their classes. And I was like, sure, I did 1, 2, I can do 5 or 6. And, I hadn't built a foundation of strength in my own body to handle that. And I created this like knee injury very early on because I just went way past my limit. And now, and even today, and I re-aggravated that same injury like about a month ago. I posted about it on my Instagram because I was not paying attention to the foundation. For the first time, I'm actually focusing now on cross training aggressively. So like I'm doing like Pilates, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing strength training. I'm actually doing, stabilization work. You'll see me in the gym on a Bosu ball, right? Like these things I didn't pay attention to before because, I didn't understand that it's the same thing that I've been teaching and preaching at BollyX. Like you cannot get to where you want to go unless you, as quickly as possible, without a strong, and then stay there without the right foundation. And so that's the first thing that we teach in BollyX is about this concept of bold. Be big, open up, look up, don't be afraid. And really it's about getting your foundation straight. And that to me is like the secret to like pretty much everything.
I love that focus on foundation. I feel like, I need to hear that just in terms of like career and just making sure I'm solid and know what I want. But I think what this makes me think of is, with you and BollyX, I guess you're like an athlete and teacher and entrepreneur all at once. So it's a lot to maintain, right? Like once you've even set the foundation.
Yeah. And I think that that's also what's super neat. Again, what's really neat about BollyX is we've really tried to build it in as inclusive of a manner as possible, right? Like we're trying to bridge, like our instructors are of all different body types. They're of all different backgrounds and starting points when it comes to dance. They're from all different cultures. Like I think the vast majority of our instructor base, and now we've got like over 4,000 instructors.
Wow.
The majority, no, I shouldn't say vast majority, but the majority, maybe like 65% or more, are non-Indian, right? These are people that didn't grow up on Bollywood for the most part, right? Like, or at least not to the same extent that, Indians that listen to it every day in their household, like grew up on it, right? And that is exactly where we want to be, because a big part of this is about building community, bridging cultures, and bridging gaps, right? And so the point I wanted to make was that a lot of our instructors are juggling so many different things, right? Like they're not doing instructing full time. A lot of them are full-time doctors, lawyers, like running podcasts. They're like, they're starting their own things. They're, working as stylists. They're teachers or full-time stay-at-home moms, right? Like these, like raising a family. I can't even imagine what that, what that's like, but that's probably really, really hard, right? Time consuming and, draining as well, right? So these instructors are also training themselves through BollyX, right? So BollyX is not just about like training other people. It's about training yourself and achieving your own goal, right? Like how many of us have a gym membership that we didn't use for the longest period of time, right? We invested in it because we're like, we want to go to the gym. We want to be more active, but we're just not quite ready yet. Becoming an instructor in this, and I bet this is true for Zumba, BollyX, for a lot of communities in the fitness industry, is that when you sign up and you actually join, part of it is about wanting to spread the mission and train other people and inspire others and help others get fit. But a lot of it has to do with also just amping yourself up and continuing to solidify your own foundation. And that also creates a really nice synergy between participants and instructors, because everyone's in the same boat, right? Like, you have participants coming to class that don't have they're of all body types, they're of all backgrounds and styles of dance and all that stuff. Not everyone's even not heard of Bollywood before, right? And if they walk in and they always see an instructor that just knows everything, is in perfect shape and this, that, or whatever, it may not resonate that well for them. They may actually feel intimidated by that, right? But the nice thing about the BollyX community and family and the whole fitness industry is that you don't have to have perfect stamina, perfect shape, perfect dance moves, all that stuff to do this, right? Like, you can start at any point and there will be a community that wants to follow you, right?
Mm.
And BollyX, as a community and a company, we pride ourselves on sticking with you all the way through your journey. Whether you're starting with 2 left feet the way I did in college, and that's your starting point, or you're killing it and you're running your own dance company full time and you're just adding BollyX in as another offering. Doesn't matter where you are in that spectrum from a dance standpoint or a fitness standpoint or whatever. We want to help you get from this point to wherever you want to go. And not everyone wants to do dance full time. Not everyone has time to do it. Most people don't. Most people have so many other things they got to do, right? So yeah, I think that's something I'm also really, really passionate about, is making sure that while we understand that foundation is important and we remind ourselves that is the case, at the same time, we also know that anything and everything can be a step towards solidifying your foundation. It's just really about understanding where you're trying to go and then putting a strong plan in place that's realistic, and then actually following through to get to where you want to go. If you align those things and you build, and if you build the right plan, or you have the right intention, you build the right strategy, focusing on the right things, you actually follow through, and then you put yourself in the right environment and to measure progress and keep you accountable to those goals. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you'll find success.
Yeah, when you talked about the different body types and BollyX being inclusive, I think the biggest testimonial to that is last year I started taking Zoom BollyX classes with Meredith, and she was probably dancing till she was 9 months pregnant, up to delivery. And I was like, wow, if she can do that, anyone can do BollyX.
I love seeing stuff like that too, right? And then now she's dancing. She got the baby. Now the baby's out of the oven, and she's got the baby in this little carriage on her, and while she's dancing, and the baby's what's going on? It's so cool, right? And that's also really cool in BollyX, is that I really love this family culture that we've cultivated, right? Our mission statement is building the world's largest Bollywood-inspired fitness family. But if you cut everything in the middle out, it's literally just building family, right? And I love that we can grow up together, that we can introduce our family members to different family members. Jane, your family to me, Maris family to me. Now you guys meet over a Zoom class, and now you guys have some family bond and connection there, budding or whatever, right? And it's really cool when I hear stories like that. And to your point, yeah, I think that's a perfect example of, it doesn't matter where you're at, in the fitness cycle journey, what you're going through from a physiological standpoint, what health conditions you have. We got tons. I got this when I posted about my knee injury, and I opened up about how I really haven't been focusing enough on or taking certain things like stretching and cross training seriously in my life, and it's time for a change. I remember getting this email from one of the members in our community, and this person expressed how they were really grateful that I had shared that story, and then they shared a story with me about how they've been able to use BollyX as a way to deal with osteoporosis and pretty severe, a severe variant of it. I hear about so many stories like that, and it's just remarkable to me that not just BollyX, but that dance as a medium can heal our minds, our spirits, our bodies in ways that I don't even think science has yet captured, right? Like, I think we're still learning about how good this is for us as humans. I feel like 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now, there's just going to be more and more research that comes out that talks about how dance is like one of the greatest drugs you could buy, you know, like, for your mind, for your soul, for your body, like all this stuff. And there's so much about it. Like, I actually, I have some fun stuff that I want to do with that. Even like I have this idea or this vision of like prescribing music for certain ailments, right? Or prescribing BollyX routines for certain ailments, right? So if you're feeling down, and you want to wallow a bit, then here's that mood song for you, or here's that mood routine where if you do like, you do that song, you'll feel it, you'll live in that moment. If you're like amped up and you got a meeting and you want to like kill that meeting, Mulhari is the track for you, right? You just got to be like, doing squats and like you're ready, and then you walk in there and you kill your meeting, right? So like I think there's a lot to it. Like, I use music for meditative purposes all the time, like, and all styles, like heavy metal. A lot of people don't know this. This is the first time I'm probably disclosing this publicly. My favorite genre of music by far is alternative heavy metal.
That's crazy.
Like people would never know this about me. Like they would think that okay, Bollywood, Bhangra, like, all these are like my hip hop, like these are things that I want. But I love metal music. I love it. I grew up on it in high school. I still remember my mom and my dad like hearing the beats just like emanating from my headphones, like, oh, way too loud, and they would be so scared. Like they were just like, what is happening to our son? Like, he is going off track.
What is this heavy metal music?
Yeah. What is this? Like, isn't it gonna break his head? Like, and like, maybe there was some risk of it, right? Because like the metal is not for everyone, and there's definitely some things about it that are quite dark. There's an intensity about it, right? But just like all things, I think in moderation, there's something to be learned from everything, right? And I got one of my broskies. I don't know if you ever seen some of these remixes I post up by this DJ named Classics. So he's it's the reason I wear this fancy little thing over here. More stories for another day, but he's the best mixer of Bhangra music with hip hop probably on this planet, in my opinion, in my view. Will always be.
And I think you might have showed me once.
Yeah, he's my brother.
Okay. I want to rewind a little bit and talk about where you were at in life when you started BollyX. Because you did the dancing in college. And then what did your life look like outside of dance from there on?
So I was supposed to be a doctor, like all good Indian boys.
Classic.
Yeah. And
good thing that didn't happen though.
Oh, I like to say, and I like to tell my mom, I did become a doctor. I am healing the world and healing people, but just not in the same way. Not with the stethoscope. I'm doing it with my little feet, right? But basically, yes. So I was supposed to be a doctor. I was pre-med. I was doing cell biology and psychology double major, and that was going to be my way into med school. Because anyone who's ever tried to be in med school knows that, like, from the get-go, you have to plan how you're going to get into med school from like day one, 4 or 5 years ahead of time.
So stressful.
Otherwise, you're going to the Caribbean. All the Caribbean folks will hate on me for that, but you understand. I wouldn't even made it into the Caribbean med schools. I would have been. There's no way with my grades I would have gotten anywhere near a med school.
Is that because you were dancing so much?
Exactly. Yeah. So I ended up spending all my time dancing, not really going to my classes, and I was spending all my time studying these videos and trying to fix my 2 left feet, and my grades were just plummeting. And so I guess there is some truth to the fear that parents might have about their kids getting, to Indian parents in particular, getting too caught up in dance and veering off of studying and all that. But what I think they don't necessarily understand is that what you may lose in academics, you gain tenfold in like experiences that you're going to carry with you for a lifetime, different kinds of skill sets, different types of problems that you're solving them in a team-based environment, which is a lot more analogous to what you do once you leave college than like, doing a one-dimensional kind of studying, textbook, whatever based, right? Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I ended up dropping pre-med. and so I changed my cell bio major into economics. I finished with econ and psych. I've always geeked out about like psychology and how people think and all that good stuff. And yeah, I mean, pretty much all I did in college was dance, study dance, teach dance, compete at competitions. And then I guess I've maintained my 3.0.
Okay.
I graduated, right? That was important. And then outside of that, like I definitely did, I started doing some entrepreneurial things. So I think if there was one other thing I did, it was like I started my first like business on campus. I got a lot of people don't know about this either, but like basically there was a consulting group on campus, Berkeley Consulting Group or something like that, BCC or I don't know, something, whatever. And I remember like my grades were so bad that I didn't even get an interview. And like I really wanted to be in this group because it's so prestigious on campus and they're all like consulting for these awesome companies. And like I was like, ooh, I'm going into business now. I need to get into these groups. Yeah. I didn't even get an interview. And then so I was like, I didn't like that. so I was like, I could do this too. And I found a family friend who was doing like the family friend had a business and basically they were looking to enter the US market with their it was a soda, it was a drink product. And so I was like, oh, like, and they were going to hire some consultants and stuff with all that. I was like, no, let me get the smartest kids at Berkeley together. We will do the research project for you. You can pay us 5% of what you would have paid them. And I was like, how's $7,000? It was like some random number. I was like, $7,000 for this, like for like some obscene amount of work that we did. Right. Oh, and they're like, done. I was like, could I have asked for more?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
But yeah, so it was, anyway, so yeah, so that was my first official kind of business was I basically hired some kids on campus from that group, Berkeley Consulting.
Wow, and, that's what happens when you reject Shahil.
It doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way. But that one worked out.
That's a smart business model though, you know, like take something that's working, you get a client and just consulting's so underrated too, because like your fees can be so high.
It's really, really expensive.
Yeah. It's just like not considered like for startup world, it's not considered like a sexy business because it's not like scalable product, but like it's very viable.
Right. It's interesting that and so that's why I always tell people like do what you're passionate about, because when you follow your passion and you hit it with intensity and you follow through, good things happen. Like for me, I barely made it with a 3.0 out of Berkeley and these top tier consulting firms. So I ended up working at Accenture right after college, right? I graduated. I didn't go straight into entrepreneurship. Well, I did. I didn't go straight into like BollyX. I went into a stable suit and tie 9 to 5. Well, consulting is like more like 9 to like 9, right? Job out of college. But I graduated in 2009, and that was when the market had tanked because of the housing crisis. Mm-hmm. And so I remember that everyone on campus was tripping. They were freaking out because the job offers were gone. Like the literally the previous year, they were giving out like 10 to 12 job offers. Each company was giving out like 10, 12 job offers. Mm-hmm. And then our year, it was like 1 to 3 for each company. Right. Yeah. And so everyone's competing and it's just like, and I was at that point, I was like, I'm not going to get one of these jobs. Like, there's no way I'm going to get, I'll end up just like whatever's left over from the recruiting cycle. I'll deal with that. Right. And I got an interview with Accenture and I was doing this research project for this, like finishing the PowerPoint for this client that was demanding the PowerPoint. And it was the night before this interview. So I walked into the interview, not having slept. I was up all night. It was all night. This is before I even knew how consultants function, like post-grad. I walked into this interview and I had like bloodshot eyes and I sat down with my suit and tie and I was like, trying to like, the guy's like, yo, what happened to you? And I was like, I was like, let me just be real with you. I just did like all this stuff for the last 24 hours. It was a consumer consulting project. I have not slept. And the guy looked at me and he's like, it's like in a way, it's like I was already trained to be a consultant.
You were already doing it.
That's literally what consultants do is they walk in like off a red eye that they just flew across the planet. And then they like walk in with a smile on their face as if they're totally fine when they're absolutely not. Wow. They give a meeting and then they go to like
knew.
Then they go find the meeting. Then they go find a conference room that's vacated, close all the blinds, and they like nap for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and they like wake up and they do it
Oh
again,
my
right?
God.
And so it was so funny because like it's like I was totally not supposed to get the job. I ended up getting I think there was only one offer given that year, and I ended
Wow.
up getting it. And I was
Damn.
like, I remember my parents were shook because they were like so concerned. They were like, this guy doesn't go to his classes. He's barely past, scraping by. We don't know what he wants to do. Right. And for Indian people, Indian culture, like they might be about like exposing their kids to dance, but when the kids actually pursue it and like want to start a dance school or this, that, or whatever,
That's like, yeah, it's a
it's
little
too
too
risky.
artsy.
It's too risky, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah. So that's anyway, all that to say that I think because I was so adamant about following my passion, but not just following it half-assed, like actually following it and hitting it hard,
Mm-hmm.
that is what kind of led me to like, things just kept falling into place.
Mm.
And so I always tell people that to whatever extent you can really follow your passion, do it. I have this other idea that like also make sure you have your backup plans in place. Know what your limits are, like how much risk you can take.
Right.
But don't be like completely naive about it. But at the same time, if you have the ability to follow your passion, 9 times out of 10, go for it, but hit it really, really hard.
Yeah, that's good advice. And also that following your passion can look different, right? Depending
Yeah.
on your stage of life and
Yeah.
depending on how much risk you can take, like you said. Like for you, it took a few years before you were actually working on BollyX full time, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, so for me, I think when I joined Accenture, I wouldn't say that joining Accenture as a consulting firm was necessarily my passion at the time. Like, I was still dancing was my thing, but I knew that I was not ready to go full time into it. And actually, I had good guidance, right? My parents were like, do your stable job to get a base. They kept telling me, get a foundation in place, have some money coming in the bank, build up some sort of resource safety net for yourself, learn more about how business works before you go off and jump into the deep end,
Mm.
and then do it, right? And so what I did, I was kind of listening to this advice from them. I was thinking about starting my own dance school, right after college, skipping the Accenture thing, but I decided on a hybrid path. So I ended up going full-time working at Accenture, but on the side, I started a dance performance company. So basically, we would just do a handful of performances for different corporate clients around the country. So like Walmart has a shareholder meeting with like 15,000 attendees or something like that. We were hired to do the Bollywood entertainment as a part of their like diversity, act at their event, right? And this is because we had gone on America's Got Talent and like we had built some level of brand recognition and quality and all that stuff. And so I was doing that on the side, and it was definitely draining for me because I was like, consulting itself is draining, but then running a business from scratch is, and a lot more with more people involved and all that was also, I didn't have a blueprint for it. And that was draining, but I was happy because I was like following my passion. And I was also building a really strong foundation in the process. And ironically, like running that dance company helped me be a better consultant because I understood what clients are looking for. I was selling contracts. I was doing things that my managers at Accenture were doing. It's just I was doing it on this side, almost on the corporate side, so to speak, right?
Mm.
It allowed me to also learn how to be more efficient with my time, right? Advice for anyone who's listening that's a consultant, right? Working longer hours does not make you a better consultant. Something I learned was that like you should not measure your productivity and your success or your value as a consultant on the number of hours that you're putting in. If you are doing that, you are, in my view, chances are you're not optimizing yourself for success. You're not necessarily training yourself to be more efficient. And you're also likely going to it's not sustainable. Like you're going to run yourself into the ground at some point, some point or another. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something I noticed that just like being in the consulting world is that like, there are a lot of people that they do these like insane hours. And like in consulting, a lot more of it is about building relationships with people. If you can connect with your clients, if you can really understand what it is that they want in order to make them successful, you don't need to send them like a 200-page like presentation. You need to send them 5 pages that really hit what they need. And if you can figure that out, then you can be really successful as a consultant. So that's a side topic, some stuff I learned in Accenture, But ultimately I ended up leaving Accenture because I felt like, okay, I'm ready now to take the plunge and do something bigger. Like I did Accenture for like 3 years, and I did my whole Bollywood dance company. It was called Ishara Dance Company. Still around today.
Oh,
And
cool.
and so we did that. I did that for like 2-3 years. And then I quit Accenture and I went to business school because I wasn't sure what I wanted to start, whether it was going to be Ishara and making that bigger or something else. But I knew I wanted to create some company that connected Bollywood and Hollywood. That's all I knew at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I wanted it to be big. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know about Zumba at the time. I didn't even know what Zumba was at that time. I didn't know I didn't know about, much about fitness industry, like all this stuff.
It's almost like you have 3 business degrees, right? Like the consulting from Accenture, you have your MBA, like your official MBA from MIT, and then you have like this lifelong entrepreneurial MBA.
I know. And I still don't know enough. I still don't know as much of my dad. He keeps,
Oh, is he an
he's,
entrepreneur too?
he's not, he's just smart as hell. Like he's so smart. It's just like, it's crazy. Like to this day, I feel like I still don't know enough. I still don't know as much as he does. Like, and I can learn learn forever, but he's still got a leg up.
That's great though. So
He
he's like a
watches,
built-in advisor.
he watches Shark Tank religiously and already knows
Wow.
what's gonna happen and all this stuff. It's like,
Okay,
yeah, but
so
he's a great advisor. He was one of the first investors in BollyX.
wow.
And despite how much my mom and my dad were hard on me in college and like very against the, pursuing dance full time, dropping out of medicine, like as dropping out of business school, which I ended up doing.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
got that.
that.
I ended up dropping out of business school too.
Ah.
Yeah. So basically, they were against all that stuff, and it was hard. They were hard on me for it, but they've been always supportive. So like, they just wanted to always make sure that I was making, that I understood the ramifications of the decisions I was making. That even if I wasn't hearing their, even if I don't know if it's listening or hearing, whatever. I
Like
guess
you heard their feedback, but
I heard their
yeah.
feedback, but I wasn't applying it, but it was in
Right.
there somewhere. It was getting
Yeah.
stored and backed up. That's all that their role was, and I think that's often the case for parents in general, but especially the truth in my culture I can speak from because of I just have grown up around a lot of Indian people. Is that, and I'm sure Asian families probably similar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tend to be very, very tough on their kids, and it can be counterproductive in certain fashions. But from the other side of it is that if you just follow your own intuition and gut, but still try to take the best of the feedback you're getting, which is another thing we teach at BollyX, the importance of feedback, right? Like almost no one likes to hear feedback immediately. Like you want it. You're like, in theory, you're like, yes, please tell me how I can improve. And then someone's like, okay, well, I don't like the way you did this. And then you're like, don't ever say that to me again. You're like, in your mind, you say that, but you're like, okay, what else? And you're kind of getting a little more amped up, right? But the thing is that if you can train that muscle where you can take feedback, everyone's got something of value. Most people, I don't want to say everyone, but most people have something of value to say or something of value to find. And if you can just find that and then utilize it where appropriate and just discard the emotional noise, you'll grow. That's how I got into dance. That's how like I heard so many times, Shahil, you're a terrible dancer. Shahil, you'll never be a good dance captain. Shahil, you are doing this move wrong. You look that way. You look that. And honestly, it was true. Like a lot of it, no, sorry, I shouldn't say it was true. There was a lot of truth to these things I was hearing, right? It didn't mean, oh, Shahil, you'll never make a good dance captain. That doesn't mean literally, Shahil, you will never make a good dance captain. It means that there are certain aspects of who you are today that will not translate well to you as a dance captain in the future. And if I had just been like, if I just run from the feedback, I'd have been like, oh, like you've hurt my feelings and now I'm going to go cry about it. I maybe would have quit. I wouldn't have gotten any better. On the flip side, if I was so like, you're wrong, I don't want to listen to you, I'm a great dancer, I wouldn't have grown either, because I would have just stuck in my little bubble where I thought I was good and that I had it all figured out when I didn't know, honestly, jack shit at the time. So if you can find a way to balance these two things where you can actually seek out feedback, even negative things, but but and then look inwardly and say, okay, like take the emotion out of it. What can I take out of any of this that I'm hearing that can help me move closer to my goal? If you can train that muscle and get good at it, it's pretty powerful, because then, again, same thing is that it started for me with dance, but then it really started trickling over to like how I run BollyX, or how I applied myself at school, or like at Accenture or whatever. Like I went through the same cycles at BollyX, right? Like I came in thinking that I knew what I was doing. Like people on my team will attest to this, that like I was very strong-headed about certain things. I was like, and honestly, if I hadn't adapted or like listened to tough feedback that I had heard from different people, probably would have run this company off a cliff.
I love that line that you said about, it was something like, this feedback about you not being a good dance captain today is just like, you need to parse that out from the vision of like you as a dance captain in the future. You said something like that, but I think that is so gold. That really is like the core of it. And with something like dance or anything that's artistic and subjective, like you only get better with feedback. That's the only way you learn, right? And so building that, I guess, that feedback receiving muscle is
Yeah.
so important. One thing I wanted to hear your take on, something we talked about before, but is, the dance community can be like a lot of big personalities, right? And I'm sure as you were learning how to receive feedback, you're probably also learning about how to give feedback and train others on, on how to think this way. How has that journey been of managing a team, not just of like the core BollyX team, but managing this whole community of teachers and all the personalities in the community?
I love this topic. I love this topic.
Good.
Yeah, I love this topic because it's endlessly fascinating. There's never a conclusion to new things that you're learning about it, and it's a challenge that just continues to evolve. And we're just always learning about new ways to bridge divides between people. And what's really cool about this is that, like in BollyX, we're in this like microcosm, right? With different instructors and participants and different communities, and they're all kind of like trying to work together to, achieve a common goal. But then you look at the macro environment, like what we're going through as a country, what the world is going through, what communities in India are going through, with respect to the protest, the Black Lives Matter movement here. A lot of these problems or issues that come from different personalities butting heads, from different interests butting heads. Those challenges exist at every layer of our society, probably even the universe. There's aliens out there, and at some point, those two worlds are going to collide, and there's going to be new forms of butting heads. But anyway, the point is that, okay, so with the BollyX crew and the BollyX community, I think where we started as a community and a company, we were very high on this idea of two things: feedback and family. Like I remember early on at BollyX, I would walk into these trainings and I'd be like, where we train and certified instructors, where I'd be like, our culture is about two things: feedback and family, right? I would tell them my story, the story I just shared about how, like, if I hadn't taken feedback and like, then I would have gotten to where I am today. So, we at BollyX, we're actually going to give you feedback, and that's not a bad thing. There was an exam, there is an exam. Like BollyX is certification, not a license, meaning you have to actually pass an exam to become an instructor. And part of that exam is getting feedback, right? And so that's different from Zumba and from a lot of instructor certifications or licenses trainings out there, where you don't have, there's no exam, right? You show up, you pay the money, you go through the training, and you're now licensed to teach that format and brand. We were different. We were more like this other company out there called Les Mills. They do body combat, body attack, body pump. I don't know if I'm getting about grit, right? Body jam, amazing company. And so we had this exam process. And so that was one of the first things I was like, look, this is different in that you are going to get feedback, and it's not always going to feel good. On the other hand, you've got a family here that's here to help you like achieve your goals, right? You don't need to tackle this feedback yourself. You've got a crew. And that still resonates so much for me, right? I didn't just do it myself. Like I got better as a dancer back in college because of the giants, the shoulders of the giants that I stood on, right? Like I studied and solicited feedback from other amazing dancers, from my own team, from my parents, from my friends, like all these people, right? Like they were just as much a part of my success as the time and effort that I put in as an individual. And with BollyX, the value add is that you're not going through this alone. You've got 20 other people standing here that are all going through the same thing that you're going through. And we as a team can do it together. And that's what's going to make us stronger as a family. And I thought it was beautiful. A lot of people thought it was beautiful. A lot of people got trained, certified, whatever. A lot of people, however, also got really upset. Just like people are at different levels of readiness for learning certain movement patterns or being at certain fitness levels to teach at certain intensity levels, they're also I've learned at different levels of being able to take feedback. Right. And if we just go out there with this, like, pill of like, you need to take feedback on day one, starting now, like, sure, for a good amount of people, they'll be able to take it. But then for some amount of people, they're gonna be like, I don't want to deal with this. And that's not productive. It's counterproductive, because what we want is to build a culture and a community where everyone is kind of moving in this direction. So we learned that quickly, that two things. One is that we have more checkpoints, more forms of support for people when they are on that journey of obtaining feedback. We started giving feedback in smaller doses rather than like all at once. Here's like a rainy day, it's just like, here's something to focus on. The other thing we learned is that how we frame the feedback is very, very important. Right. Like, and this actually has kind of parallels to just like relationships, to, people connecting in the workplace, heck, even probably countries and how they talk to each other, right? When signing treaties, how you frame feedback is important, right? Framing things in a more constructive way, giving people actual actionable things that they can work on, not just saying, here's what's wrong, but also here's what can be fixed. Here's what can be better. Here's what can be improved. All those little things help a tremendous amount. But there's a third element. So I had feedback and family were the two things that were really big when we started BollyX. We've added a third element in the last couple of years, which I realized at one point it kind of clicked in my head that this is missing. And it was really a piece about empowerment, right? About lifting people up. Just as important as the feedback is the support element of BollyX, right? Like praise, acknowledging people for what they're doing well, like leading with the actual good stuff rather than leading with the bad stuff. So it's almost as if like, family's at the center of BollyX. We had the feedback part, which was great, but what was missing was this balancing side, which was really about empowerment, support, praise. And so now we've really built this. Now that all three are kind of clicking together, we're seeing a very different side of BollyX come to life, right? Where not only those people that, already were trained dancers and people who were already trained fitness instructors that already had most of these things, we've started seeing basically a lot more progression across the whole community, right? People that were super experienced and, kind of already knew a lot of the feedback before it was even given, they were still moving in the right direction. People that were new and new to fitness, new to teaching, whatever, they weren't as intimidated or discouraged by the feedback. And they were actually starting to build the receptiveness to it, to the point where now those people that maybe would have been shy about feedback on day one, they're asking for feedback now. And so that mind shift is so critical, right? Because like that is such an important component towards being able to grow, right? So the more that we as a community and a company are able to encourage, inspire, and to a certain degree educate, empower our community with these types of frameworks for success, that's the most valuable thing that BollyX can offer. Even more so than the dancing, the fitness, like all this stuff. Like it's not BollyX like burn 5,000 calories. It's BollyX unleash your inner rock star, right? Like at the core of BollyX is really about how do you build a foundation that allows you to find that rock star that's inside you and let that person out. It's as simple as that. Whether that's through a fitness avenue, whether it's through, you wanting to be to become more social, be more build more of a community, whether it's just wanting to do good in the world, whether it's wanting to expand your horizons and try something new, taste of a new culture, whether it is, improving yourself, your coordination, your dance ability, all that stuff, achieving your goal of being a performer or, being an instructor. Doesn't matter what those things are, or even if you just want to get better at your job. Like literally BollyX is the kind of place that can give you a foundation for all those things. And that to me is the thing that I personally am most proud of when it comes to this company.
Mic drop. It's so cool hearing how you think about all of this, because what I experience is obviously like the end result. And I only see the tip of the iceberg, which is this awesome experience I get like on a weekly basis. I get this amazing stress relief and I get to dance with other people and do poses. It's really cool to hear your thought process on how you've evolved the culture over time. And when I think of the BollyX community and family, it's like some of the most supportive people I know, like in these group chats or on Instagram, like everyone's always like shouting each other out and congratulating each other. It really is like this wholesome community. And obviously, like anything, it's a work in progress. Anything with
Right.
people is like you'll keep improving over time and keep growing. And on that note, maybe it's a good time to talk about what we can look forward to with BollyX.
All right. So, I mean, we're almost approaching year 8 of BollyX. And
that's a lucky number in Chinese.
Oh, well, I was just about to say it's feeling like it's going to be a very lucky year because we have spent so much time meticulously building infrastructure, right? Like building out like the instructor training process, building out the mentorship and coaching that comes after training to actually lead up towards putting you in a gym where you want to teach, actually building the infrastructure to raise awareness through BollyX on demand, through YouTube, through social media, through advertising, all these things so that people know about BollyX and then go into the classroom. That makes the instructor successful. It makes it for a better participant experience when there's more people doing it, all that stuff, right? And then we've built out the infrastructure for how to grow these communities, right? With ambassadors, with mentors, regional trainers, the ability to scale the online training so that people can now get trained from anywhere in the world, right? We have instructors in the UK, we have instructors in India that are like, growing, Australia, we got, I think, Singapore, we got Malaysia, we got like so many places, right? We got Spain, Europe, we got South America, we got Middle East, we got a couple countries there. I'm not sure yet about Africa. I got to double check. I think we do have a couple folks out there too, right? So like it's starting to grow in all these places because we've removed a lot of the bottlenecks. So I think in terms of what's coming next, a couple things. One is I think that we're going to massively grow our instructor base, especially post-pandemic. Like I personally plan to go on tour and just want to like, train as many people who will come to be instructors because I know that it will work, So that's one aspect. The other thing is that more immediately speaking, we have a new product that we're going to be launching very soon called BollyX Live. That's sort of the last piece of infrastructure that's been missing. We have the BollyX On Demand is this product where people can work out from home anywhere, anytime. And there's this, big catalog of dance routines and workouts. And then we have the Instructor Portal, which is basically for all the instructors that are out there teaching choreography, and there's way more songs and way more. The library for the Instructor Portal is way more massive because the fee here is a lot higher. It's like $20 a month, but there's access to like a lot bigger catalog. And then the BollyX On Demand library is still pretty big. There's a couple hundred different routines people can do. And right now the deal that we're running is you pay once, never pay again. It's $49, pay once, and you get access to it for life, which is like probably the best deal you'll find anywhere online. What we're launching next is this middle product called BollyX Live, where it will be a subscription plan, but it will unlock access for those people that are working out at home to the instructor exclusive choreography. And it will also have verbally cued workouts, which is new for us. All of if you've seen any of our YouTube videos, they're all almost all of them are without a mic. I've been in the studio and we've been recording verbally cued workouts so that we can bring a different flavor, different energy, more of a live experience. That's going to come through BollyX Live. Also, BollyX Live is going to have all the live streams. So instructors from around the world are going to be live streaming their classes, and we're going to make sure we're going to have a subset of those available through the BollyX Live platform. And it's going to be a way for people to connect in the community, right? So on BollyX On Demand, you're kind of in your own world. But with BollyX Live, you're going to be able to actually interact with instructors. You're going to be able to meet other members of the community because it's happening live. And then for those of you that are, like you teaching, you're taking classes at the gym, you'll be able to actually join BollyX Live as well, and then access dance tutorials and breakdowns for every single move that you have, that you're taking in class. So like, let's say, Jane, I'm going to be teaching class on Friday night at Vim. Let's say you're coming to my class on Friday. One of the most commonly asked questions I get after class is, oh, Shahil, what was that song? Can I get your playlist? So now you could just go on BollyX Live, hit follow Shahil. You'll see my trending tracks in class, and you'll be able to watch the choreography for anyone you want. And you'll have tutorials breaking down every single move. So you will be able to, practice, brush up on whatever you want when you're away from the gym, come back to class, feel more confident, more prep. Maybe we shoot a little music video after class and you're feeling fly and ready to roll. You'll also be able to recommend tracks to me, right? You'll be like, Shahil, I like this song. I like this song. I like this song. I'll get a little notification that says, ooh, your class participants really want you to do this song, so don't miss it. So it'll create, again, a stronger sense of community. It'll help participants be more successful as dancers in the class. They'll feel more comfortable. They'll discover more choreography, all that stuff. And then if they miss a class at the gym, you have live stream classes that are available to you all the time. So there'll be no way for you to fall out of the funnel. Like, you'll be able to achieve your goals, whether it's, dancing every day or doing more active things or meeting new people. You'll be able to do that all the time, 365 days a year, all that good stuff. So that's something we're really excited about. We're right now just beta testing it and ironing out the kinks, but it should be launching in the next couple months here. So
exciting.
Yes.
It's official. Yeah, I feel like the BollyX online community is right now living like on WhatsApp and Instagram and sort of on the BollyX platform, but this sounds like it'll be like the full-fledged experience.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I can't wait till COVID is over and you guys do like a giant world tour. If you guys need like a podcaster or a producer, I'm around.
All right.
I'm like ready to travel. This has been an amazing conversation. Thanks for dropping your stardom, dropping your wisdom. But really, like, I don't think we've ever had a real conversation like this. So I appreciate it. Like, we've been through a lot, and thanks so much for sharing your learnings, your experience, and can't wait to see what's next with BollyX.
Thanks, Jane. Kudos to you for launching Inside Out with Jane. Like, everything is of super high quality. I could definitely take a couple pages out of your book. And this was a lot of fun. Thanks for inviting me out onto your show. And everyone out there, you need to go check out these podcasts because they're dope.
Thanks, Shahil. Where can people find you and BollyX online?
You can follow me on Instagram. That's like my biggest social platform, at Shahil BollyX. That's my first name, BollyX. You can also follow BollyX Fitness on Facebook, on Instagram, I think on TikTok, on Twitter, all that good stuff. And then if you want to join us online, go to bollyx.com. Click on this little button at the top. It says Shark Tank Deals. We're running some really cool promotional prices to get you, access to BollyX On Demand. It's a great way to get your feet wet, and the prices are totally reasonable. The best you'll find anywhere online. Or if you want to become an instructor and you want to launch BollyX, you're feeling inspired and you want to launch BollyX in your city, wherever that is, you can literally get trained and certified this weekend. Like, you can just join online training, or you can join us with one of the virtual trainings, and literally you'll have a mentor within a week. So make it happen.
Woo! All right. Thanks, Shahil.
All right. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next Tuesday.